You had them. You know you had them. They were nodding, asking questions, leaning forward, and then they said it. Let me think about it. You smiled, shook their hand, walked out, and you never heard from them again. The deal is dead. Your commission check just evaporated, and you have no idea why. You replay it in your head. The pitch was solid. The price was fair. You answered every question. You did everything right. So what happened? Here's what happened. Their brain wasn't listening. Not to you, not to your pitch, not to your logic. Their brain was scanning for something else entirely. A signal, a trigger, a shortcut that said, trust this, or run from this. And you didn't give it to them. So they defaulted to the safest option. Nothing. Let me think about it. Now, let me prove how deep this goes. Yale University, a psychology lab. A man in a gray lab coat tells a normal person, someone just like you or me, to press a button. The button delivers an electric shock to a stranger in the next room. The stranger screams, begs to stop, goes silent. And 65% of people kept pressing the button, all the way to 450 volts. Not because they were evil, because someone who looked like they knew what they were doing told them to. Click, run. The trigger activated. The behavior followed. No thinking required. The same mechanism is running in every sales conversation you've ever had. Your prospect isn't analyzing your spreadsheet. They're scanning for triggers. And whoever provides the right one wins. I'm Kyle Mackie, and today we're going to war. This episode is for the grinder, the rep who's outworking the entire floor, but still getting lapped on the leaderboard. The closer who knows their product inside and out, but keeps hearing, I need to think about it. The professional who's doing everything right on paper and still watching deals slip through their fingers. You're not broken. You're not bad at this. You've just been fighting with the wrong weapons. Today, I'm handing you the nuclear codes. The book is Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion by Dr. Robert Cialdini. He spent decades going undercover, car dealerships, telemarketing floors, fundraising operations, documenting exactly what makes people say yes. But here's the thing. Cialdini put names to these triggers. I saw them draw blood in the trenches long before I ever opened this book. In the gym floors of Movati, in shopping centers across Canada, on the streets of Auckland. Science just finally caught up to what I learned the hard way. Human beings don't make decisions. They follow triggers. And when you master those triggers, selling stops feeling like a fight. It starts feeling like gravity. Now, let me be direct about something. Human nature doesn't have an off switch. These triggers are the nuclear codes of human psychology. And when you use them correctly, the prospect's brain doesn't have a choice but to listen. And that scares some people. But here's the truth. If you're a professional, you have a responsibility to use them. Because if you don't, you're leaving your prospect's future in the hands of someone who will. Someone who might not care about them. Someone who might sell them garbage. Someone who will use these triggers to extract, not to serve. The question isn't whether influence will happen. It will. The question is whether you'll be the one wielding it. By the end of this episode, you'll have 5 triggers. Reciprocation, why giving first creates a debt that demands repayment. Liking, why the sale is won or lost before you open your mouth. Social proof, why people don't decide, they follow. Authority, how to position yourself so people listen before you speak. And scarcity, why the fear of loss crushes the hope of gain. 5 triggers, 5 weapons, 5 ways to systematically crush the resistance that creates, let me think about it. Let's begin. Let me introduce to you 3 villains that are destroying sales careers right now. You've met them. You might be one of them. And until you see them clearly, you can't kill them. Villain number 1, the logic addict. You know this guy. He shows up to every meeting with a folder, thick enough to stop a bullet. Slides, charts, ROI calculations down to the third decimal. He's on slide 37. The prospect stopped listening at slide 4. But he keeps going. Slide 38, slide 39. The prospect's eyes are glazed. Their pen is clicking. Click, click, click. They're not listening to the presentation. They're counting the seconds until it's over. The logic addict finishes his masterpiece, looks up expectantly. So, any questions? Pure silence. The prospect glances at the door. This is really comprehensive. Let me think about it. The logic addict walks out confused. I gave them everything they needed to make a smart decision. Yeah, that's the problem. You gave them everything. Their brain didn't want everything. It wanted a signal, a shortcut, a reason to stop processing and start acting. And you buried them alive. Now, villain number 2 is the desperate closer. You can smell this one from across the room. There's a certain energy, a hunger that seeps through the pores. He laughs too loud at jokes that aren't funny. His handshake lingers a beat too long. When he asks, how's your day? His eyes are already scanning for the pivot to business. The desperate closer thinks he's building rapport. He memorizes the small talk, practices the smile in the mirror, researched their LinkedIn to manufacture common ground. Oh, you went to state. My cousin went to state. The prospect nods politely, smiles with their mouth, but not with their eyes, and builds a wall so high you'd need a helicopter to get over it. Because desperation has a smell, and everyone can detect it. The desperate closer wonders why people are guarded with him, why they give short answers, why they don't open up. It's because he's broadcasting one message with every micro expression. I need this sale more than I need to help you. And that message travels faster than words. And then there's villain number 3, the nice guy. He never wants to pressure anyone. Take your time, no rush. Sleep on it, let me know. Whenever you're ready, I'm here. The nice guy thinks he's being respectful, patient, professional. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. The nice guy is the most selfish person in the room. He cares more about his own comfort, about being liked, than he does about solving the prospect's problem. He's a coward masquerading as a gentleman because asking for a decision is uncomfortable. Following up feels pushy. Creating urgency means risking rejection. So he hides behind patience and calls it professionalism. What he's actually doing is giving his prospect permission to do nothing. And nothing is the most comfortable decision in the world. Watch his pipeline, full of maybes, spreadsheets of follow-ups next week, CRM notes that say, send email, we'll circle back. He's got follow-up reminders stacked 3 months out. By Friday at 6 p.m., he's alone at his desk. The office is empty. The cleaning crew is vacuuming. He scrolls through his contacts, types just checking in for the 14th time, deletes it, stares at the ceiling. The nice guy tells himself he's playing the long game. But the truth? He's terrified of asking for a decision. Terrified that urgency will make him look pushy. So he waits and waits, and someone else closes his deal. I know these villains well because I've been all 3 at different points for longer than I'd like to admit. And what I've learned, what I've proven in thousands of face-to-face conversations is that they all share the same fatal flaw. They're fighting the wrong battle. The logic addict fights with information. The desperate closer fights with enthusiasm. And the nice guy fights with patience. They all lose because the prospect's brain isn't weighing information. It isn't measuring enthusiasm. It isn't rewarding patience. It's scanning for triggers, shortcuts, signals that bypass conscious analysis and go straight to automatic behavior. I learned this years ago working at a shopping center in Canada, raising money for child sponsorships. There was this older gentleman who walked by the booth every single day. Every day for 2 weeks, he'd slow down, look at the photos of the children, study the banners, read every word, and keep walking. 2 weeks of him processing information, 2 weeks of him thinking it over. Now, the logic addict in me wanted to chase him down, hit him with more statistics, more heartbreaking stories, more emotional appeals. The desperate closer in me wanted to corner him. Sir, can I have just 2 minutes of your time? The nice guy in me wanted to wait. He'll come around when he's ready. None of that would have worked. This guy had been marinating in information for 2 weeks. His brain wasn't stuck because it lacked data. It was stuck because it had too much. Too many children to choose from. Too many options. Too many decisions. His brain was paralyzed, looking for a signal, a shortcut, a reason to stop processing and just act. So one afternoon, as he was making his usual pass, I tried something different. Hey, I noticed you've been looking at these kids' pictures for a couple weeks now. He stopped, looked almost embarrassed. I smiled. Just thought you should know, this little girl in the blue dress on the left, she found a sponsor yesterday. She's taken care of. I wasn't asking for anything, wasn't pitching, just sharing information. He stood there, the mall noise swirling around us. Really? Something shifted in his face. That's good. That's good. A pause. Then, what about the boy next to her? That was the click. 2 weeks of analysis dissolved in 3 seconds. Not because I gave him more information, because I gave him a trigger. Scarcity, competition, a reason to act now instead of later. The data confirms what I learned in that moment. The human brain is not a calculator. It's a shortcut machine. It's drowning in decisions, and it desperately wants permission to stop thinking. Your prospect isn't weighing pros and cons. They're scanning for signals, and whoever provides that right signal wins. That's the big idea. That's what separates professionals from amateurs. Amateurs pile on information. Professionals pull triggers. So let's get into the triggers, starting with the most foundational one, the one that builds the bridge between you and your prospect before a single word about your product is spoken. It's called reciprocation, and it's about to change how you open every conversation. The rule of reciprocation is the oldest law of human cooperation. We are hardwired genetically, socially, psychologically to repay what we receive. When someone gives us something, we feel a pull to give something back. It doesn't matter if we asked for it. It doesn't matter if we wanted it. The moment we receive, we owe. I learned this before I ever read a psychology book. I just didn't have a name for it. Years later, I found out there's research that proves exactly how powerful this force is. In 1985, Ethiopia was one of the most devastated places on earth. Famine, war, thousands dying every day. Meanwhile, in Mexico, it just had been hit by a massive earthquake. And here's what defies all logic. The Ethiopian Red Cross, from a country that couldn't feed its own children, sent $5,000 in aid to Mexico. Why? Because 50 years earlier, in 1935, Mexico had sent aid to Ethiopia when it was invaded by Italy. Half a century, and the debt was still alive. The obligation overpowered starvation. That's how deep this goes. This isn't manipulation, it's human wiring. The question is whether you'll use that wiring to help people commit to things that genuinely serve them. Here's proof you can use tomorrow. A researcher ran an experiment. 2 people rating paintings. One's the real subject. The other is Joe, pretending to be a participant. In one version, during a break, Joe leaves and comes back empty-handed. In another version, Joe comes back with 2 bottles of Coca-Cola. Hands one to the subject. I grabbed one for you, too. 2 cents, completely unsolicited. Later, Joe asked everyone to buy raffle tickets. The people who got the Coke bought twice as many from a stranger because of a soda they didn't ask for. But here's the part that matters. In the group that didn't get the Coke, there was a strong connection because how much they liked Joe and how many tickets they bought. Normal, expected, but in the Coke group, the connection vanished. It didn't matter if they liked Joe or not. They bought it anyways. The obligation was stronger than personal preferences, stronger than whether they wanted the tickets, stronger than liking. What I proved in the field confirms this completely. The logic addict shows up trying to convince. The desperate closer shows up trying to charm. And the person who just handed over something valuable before asking for anything outsells them both. Not because they're smoother, because they gave first. Now, most people hear give first and think it means gifts, samples, free trials, coffee, and those work. But the most powerful form of reciprocation isn't a physical gift. It's a concession. Here's how it works. You make a large request, something you know will probably be rejected. Then, when they say no, you retreat to a smaller request. The retreat looks like a gift, like you gave something up, and gifts must be repaid. They reciprocate by moving from no to yes. Let me take you to a shopping center in Auckland. Saturday afternoon, the air conditioning losing its fight against summer. I'm at a fundraising booth. A woman stops, mid-40s, shopping bags hanging from her wrist. She's looking at the photos, interested, but not committed. Now, I could pitch the basic sponsorship, $54 a month, safe play. But I've learned something. So I tell her about a full family, 3 children, $162 a month. I watched her face shift. That's a lot. I'm not sure I can commit to that. Most reps panic here. They backpedal, apologize, minimize. I don't. I nod. I completely understand. Most people feel that way. What about starting with just one child? $54 a month. You can always add more later. Her shoulders relax. Her grip loosens. 54? Yeah, I can do that. The retreat felt like understanding, like flexibility, like a gift, and she reciprocated. So here's what you take from this. Give before you ask. Every interaction starts with a value, information, a genuine compliment, something that creates the initial debt, understanding that concessions are gifts. When you retreat from a larger position to a smaller one, you're giving something, and that gift will be reciprocated. Pair reciprocation with contrast. Show the big option first, then offer the smaller one. The smaller option looks more attractive by comparison. When you master this, something shifts. You stop feeling like you're taking. You start feeling like you're exchanging. Give first, receive second. The balance feels right. The sale feels natural. But here's the warning. Reciprocation is a loaded gun. It gets your foot in the door, lowers the walls, creates obligation. But if you give without the next trigger, you aren't a closer. You're a charity. And charities go broke. If they don't like you, if something about you puts them on edge, that obligation curdles into resentment. And resentment doesn't close deals. It poisons them, slowly, silently. You're missing the shield that prevents them from taking your gift and running. That shield is called liking, and most salespeople are getting it catastrophically wrong. We prefer to say yes to people we like. That sounds obvious, almost too obvious to mention, but here's what most people miss. The factors that make us like someone are largely invisible. They operate below conscious awareness, and they can be triggered by complete strangers in minutes. What I've proven in the field and what the research confirms is that liking isn't about being nice. It's about being similar, familiar, safe. Let me tell you about the greatest car salesman who ever lived, Joe Girard, Guinness World Record holder for 12 consecutive years. One guy, on the floor, Detroit. He averaged more than 5 vehicles sold every single day. 5, every day, for 12 years. When asked his secret, Girard would shrug. I offer a fair price, and I'm someone people like to buy from. Here's how he made that scale. Every single month, without fail, Gerard sent a holiday greeting card to his entire customer list. Over 13,000 names, 13,000 cards every month. The message never varied. It didn't advertise a sale, didn't ask for referrals, didn't promote new inventory. The envelope just said, I like you. Inside, the same thing. I like you. Signed, Joe Gerard. 3 words, 13,000 times, every month for years. On paper, this sounds ridiculous, generic, impersonal. But Gerard understood something that desperate closer doesn't. We are phenomenal suckers for flattery. Even when we know the person has something to gain, even when we suspect it isn't entirely sincere, it still works. We like people who like us. We can't help it. But flattery is just the surface. The deeper trigger is similarity. We like people who are like us. Same background, same interests, same way of speaking, same rhythm. When we meet someone who seems similar, something clicks. This person is safe. This person is trustworthy. This person is one of me. I learned this the hard way at Movati Athletics. There was a type of client I always struggled with, the older executives, guys in their 50s, successful, serious. They'd walk in wearing press shirts and watches that cost more than my car. The consultation room would feel smaller with them in it. And me, young, energetic, bouncing in my chair, sitting across from a man who'd built companies while I was learning to drive. I'd launch into my usual energy, crushing goals, transforming your life, cracking jokes, being myself. And I could watch the disconnect happen. His eyes glazing, arms crossing, body turning towards the door. One of these executives sat down across from me, silver hair combed precisely, Rolex catching the light, wedding ring tight on a finger that had clearly been thinner once. He looked at me like I was a presentation he had to endure. Before I could start, he cut me off. Look, voice flat, not hostile, just done. I don't have a lot of time, and I don't need a cheerleader. Just tell me what works and how much it costs. Silence. I could hear someone drop a weight in the gym. I could hear cans crashing from the vending machine, my own heartbeat. And in that moment, I realized I'd been showing up as me. But he didn't need me. He needed someone who spoke his language. So I changed right there, sat back, shoulders dropped, matched his posture, slowed my voice. Fair enough. Here's the situation. You need to lose 30 pounds. That's 12 weeks if you're consistent. Training is $800 a month. Yes or no? He looked at me. Really looked. Then his jaw relaxed. Corner of his mouth twitched. Okay, let's do it. I closed more executives in that next month than I had in the previous year. Not because I changed my pitch, because I changed who I was being. This isn't about being fake. It's about recognizing that different people need different versions of you. The version that makes them feel understood. The version that signals, I'm like you. The desperate closer shows up the same way with everyone. His energy, his jokes, his pace. And he wonders why some people connect and others don't. The professional shows up differently for different people. Not fake, adaptive. Matching the client's world instead of dragging them into yours. There's another tool here. It's the endless chain. Whenever you meet with a prospect, before you leave, ask for names of people who might benefit. Then, when you contact those referrals, lead with the friend's name. Hi, I'm Kyle. Sarah suggested I reach out. You don't know me, no reason to like me yet, but you like Sarah. And because Sarah sent me, some of that liking transfers automatically. Turning me away feels like rejecting Sarah, and we don't reject our friends. So here's what you take from this. Compliment freely and genuinely. Find something you actually appreciate. Say it. We like people who like us. Mirror and match. Pay attention to pace, posture, energy. Calibrate yourself to align. You're not copying, you're creating familiarity. Use the endless chain. Every interaction ends with asking for referrals. Every referral starts with the friend's name. Borrow the liking that already exists. Adapt who you're being, and don't have one selling personality. You have many. The skill is knowing which one each prospect needs. When you master this, people start opening up faster, trusting you sooner, saying, I don't know what it is about you, but I feel like I can talk to you. That's not magic. That's liking. Engineered with intention. But here's the trap. You can be the most likable person in the room. Genuine connection, real rapport, and they'll still freeze. Because liking creates comfort. It doesn't create certainty. When a prospect is uncertain whether buying is right, they don't say no. They say something worse. Let me think about it. Which is why liking without the next trigger is dangerous. You've built trust, you've built comfort, and then you leave them alone in that comfort with no reason to act. Someone else will give them that reason, and they'll take your deal with them. The next trigger is called social proof, and without it, all the rapport in the world won't save you from the silent death of indecision. Now stop. If you're nodding along thinking, this is good advice, you're missing the point. We aren't here for interesting. We're here for evolution. This is your income we're talking about. And right now, you're about to make a massive mistake. You're about to walk into the next meeting, give a compliment, match their energy, build rapport, and watch the deal die anyway. Here's why. Liking without proof is just friendship, and friendship doesn't close deals. You know those people in your life who you think are great, who love talking to you, who would grab a beer with you any day of the week. How many of them have bought from you? Exactly. Rapport is not a close. Connection is not commitment. If you stopped here, if you mastered reciprocation and liking and thought you were done, you'd still be losing to competitors who give prospects something you haven't. Certainty. The next three triggers are where amateurs become professionals, where I like you becomes I'm buying from you. So stop nodding. Start executing. The real game begins now. Have you ever walked past two restaurants? One is empty, one has a line out the door. Which one do you assume has better food? You don't think about it. You just know the crowded one must be good. That automatic assumption is one of the most powerful forces in human decision making. And if you're not using it, someone else is using it against you. Social proof is the principle that says we determine what's correct by looking at what other people think is correct. When we're unsure, we look to the crowd. Whatever the crowd is doing, we assume that's the right move. This isn't weakness, it's survival. For most of human history, if everyone around you was running in one direction, you didn't stop to analyze why. You ran. The one who stopped to think got eaten. So we developed this shortcut. When in doubt, follow the crowd. What I've proven in the field is that this works even when the crowd is manufactured. Here's a story that shows how powerful this is. Oklahoma City. A grocery store owner named Sylvian Goldman noticed a problem. He owns a chain of Piggly Wiggly stores. Business is good, but something's off. He watches his customers. They come in, pick up a handheld basket, start browsing. Then, at some point, they stop. They head to checkout, pay for what they have, leave. Goldman watches this pattern for weeks. Finally, he realizes customers stop shopping when their baskets get too heavy, arms tired, basket awkward. They give up, even if there's more they want. Goldman sees this as a cap on his sales. If people could carry more, they'd buy more. So he invents the shopping cart, metal folding chair, wheels on the legs, 2-wire baskets, one on top, one below. Simple, elegant, brilliant solution to a real problem. He rolls it out to all his stores, but nobody would touch it. Men thought it looked unmanly. What am I, too weak to carry a basket? Women thought it looked like a baby carriage. I'm not some housewife wheeling a pram through the store. Everyone had an excuse, but underneath all the excuses was one thing. Nobody else was using them. Goldman tried everything. Signs explaining the benefits. No more tired arms. Demonstrations by clerks. Prominent placement at the entrance. Nothing worked. For weeks, the cart sat unused. People would walk in, look at the carts, look around to see if anyone else was using them, see no one, and walk right past. Goldman was about to give up, write off the whole experiment. Then he realized something. This wasn't a logic problem. People understood the benefits. The signs were clear. This was a social proof problem. Nobody was using the carts because nobody was using the carts. Everyone looked to everyone else. Everyone doing nothing. So Goldman did something clever. He hired actors, paid men and women of different ages to walk through his stores, pushing carts, loading them up, acting like this was just what people did now, like it was the most natural thing in the world. And something shifted. Real customers saw these shoppers, saw that other people like them, thought it was okay, saw that using the cart wasn't a weird or unmanly or motherly. It was just normal. That uncertainty disappeared. The carts caught on. Within a few years, shopping carts were in every grocery store in the country. Goldman died worth over $400 million. The logic addict would have kept putting up signs, would have kept explaining, would have kept arguing with logic. Goldman hired a crowd, and the crowd did what logic couldn't. I saw this play out constantly in fundraising. Working a booth in Auckland, Saturday afternoon, the mall humming with weekend energy. When the booth looked busy, people clustered around, pens moving, voices overlapping. Something happened. Strangers would slow down, step closer, crane their necks. What's happening? What does everyone want to know that I don't? They'd join, add to the energy. But when the booths were empty, when it was just me standing there, people made hard lefts to avoid walking past, eyes locked on their phone. Suddenly, interest in store windows 20 feet away. Same cause, same pitch, same me. Completely different results based off whether it looked busy. So we started engineering the busyness. Slow periods, we'd cluster as a team, have animated conversations, spread material across the table. One person holds a clipboard and nods seriously while another talks. Theater. And people started stopping because something was happening. Other people were engaged. This wasn't deception. The cause was real. The impact was real. We were using the triggers to help people see the truth they were already drawn to. Now, here's where most people get this wrong, and it destroys them. There's a place called the Petrified Forest National Park, famous for ancient petrified wood. They had a massive theft problem. Visitors stealing pieces as souvenirs. So they put up a sign. Many past visitors have removed petrified wood from this park. Sounds reasonable. Highlights the problem. Raises awareness. Theft increased. By telling visitors that many people were stealing, they normalized the behavior. The social proof said, lots of people do this. It's common. Grab yours. I see salespeople make this same mistake constantly. They'll say something like, I know you've probably heard pitches like this and said no. A lot of people pass on this initially. What they're trying to do is be relatable. What they're actually doing is giving social proof that saying no is normal. Don't tell people how many people declined. Tell them how many succeeded. This is our fastest growing program. Most people in your situation choose this option. Everyone who started this has seen results within 30 days. The crowd is doing it. Join the crowd. Now, one more thing you need to understand, pluralistic ignorance. This explains why people freeze in groups. In an ambiguous situation, people look to each other for cues. If no one seems alarmed, everyone concludes it must be fine. Everyone looking to everyone else. Everyone staying calm because everyone else looks calm. In a sales meeting with multiple decision makers, this is deadly. You make your pitch. Silence. Everyone scans everyone else. Is anyone going to commit? No one wants to go first, so everyone stays silent. The sales die in that silence. Here's how you break it. Signal someone out. Don't ask, what does everyone think? Ask one person directly. John, based on what we discussed, does this make sense for you? Remove the crowd cue. Force a response. Once one person commits, the social proof shifts. Others have permission to follow. So here's what you have to take from this. Show that others are doing it. Testimonials, case studies, activity around your space. The crowd is your best salesperson you have. Never give social proof for the wrong behavior. Don't mention how many people decline. Highlight the majority who said yes. Break pluralistic ignorance. In group settings, don't ask the room. Ask one person and get the first yes. Let the rest follow. When you master social proof, something shifts. You stop convincing. You start showing. The crowd is on your side. The sale feels less like persuasion and more like permission. But here's the danger. Social proof works when people are uncertain, when they don't know what to do. But what happens when someone does claim to know? What happens when an authority figure speaks? The crowd goes silent. Everyone follows the voice that sounds like it has the answers. So social proof without authority makes you a follower, not a leader. And followers don't command premium prices. They don't control conversations. They don't close. The next trigger is called authority. And if you don't wield it, someone else will. We are trained from birth that obedience to proper authority is right. Teachers, parents, doctors, police. From the moment we can walk, we learn to defer to people in positions of power. This conditioning runs so deep that we click into automatic obedience without realizing it. Remember the milligram experiment I opened with. 65% of normal people delivered what they believed were fatal shocks because a man in a lab coat said, continue. That's the power of authority. It overrides logic. It overrides preference. It overrides self-preservation. Here's what this means for you. If you don't establish authority, your prospect will follow someone else. Their friends who said your industry is full of scams. The internet article that ranked your competitor higher. Their own gut feeling that says, wait. But if you establish authority, your words carry weight. Your recommendations become your instructions. Your guidance becomes the path they follow. The question isn't whether authority will influence your prospect. It will. The question is whether that authority will be you. Now, here's where I have to be honest. I wasn't always the authority. For a long time, I was the opposite. I was what I now call the apologizer. I'd walk into a meeting already apologizing for being there. I know you're busy, so I'll try to be quick. I'm not sure if this is right for you, but I don't want to waste your time. I thought I was being humble, respectful. What I was actually doing was broadcasting, I don't believe I deserve to be here. And if I don't believe it, why should they? And my shoulders were slightly hunched. My voice rose at the end of sentence, turning statements into questions. This could really help. The prospect read all of this, not consciously, instinctively. And they concluded, this person isn't an expert. This person can be dismissed. So they dismissed me politely. Well, think about it. I walked out thinking the product wasn't right for them. The truth? They never evaluated the product. They evaluated me, and I failed. Here's what changed everything. Authority operates on shortcuts. People defer to symbols of authority even more than actual authority. Titles, clothes, posture, tone. A person in a well-tailored outfit is automatically perceived as more competent. A person who speaks in statements instead of questions is assumed to know more. A person who pauses before answering is trusted more than one who rushes. These signals speak before your words do. But the most powerful way to establish authority isn't to parade credentials. It's counterintuitive. It's honesty. There was a waiter studied by researchers. His name was Vincent, most successful waiter in his restaurant. Highest tips by far. His secret was one move. When a large party was ordering, Vincent would wait for someone to select a dish. Then he'd pause, look toward the kitchen, and whisper, "I'm afraid that dish is not as good tonight as it normally is." Then he'd recommend 2 alternatives, both slightly less expensive. Think about what just happened. He established himself as an authority. He knows which dishes are good tonight. Inside information. He proved his trustworthiness. He argued against his own financial interest. Why recommend cheaper dishes unless he genuinely wanted to help? He activated reciprocity. He gave valuable information. They owe him. Later in the meal, "Would you like me to recommend a wine?" "Yes." Vincent recommended expensive bottles, desserts, after dinner drinks. Then they'd given him permission to guide them, and he guided them into his tip. I adapted this immediately. Instead of pretending to have all the answers, I started leading with honesty. Picture my consultation room at Movati. Small, functional, motivational posters no one reads. A woman sits across from me, maybe 35, wedding ring. She's interested, but wary. Arms crossed. She's been burned before. Instead of launching into why we're the best, I lean back. "Look, I'll be straight with you." She blinks. "This program isn't for everyone. If you're not going to show up consistently, this won't work. If you're not willing to change how you eat, this won't work. And I'd rather tell you that now than take your money and have you quit in 2 months." Absolute silence. She uncrossed her arms. "You'd really turn down a sale?" "I'd rather lose a sale than waste your time." Her shoulders dropped. She leaned forward. "Okay, so what does it take to make it work?" Now she's asking me to sell her because I earned the right to guide her. So here's what you take from this. Audit your authority symbols. What do your clothes say? Your posture, your material, your voice. These signals are read instantly. Make sure they say what you want. Use strategic honesty. Early in the conversation, admit a weakness, something that doesn't favor you. Establish trust. Follow with your strongest point. The honesty makes the strength believable. Speak in statements, not questions. Based on what you've told me, here's what I recommend. Given your situation, this is the path forward. That's not pushy, that's professional. And professionals get followed. When you master authority, something shifts. You stop asking for permission, you start prescribing. And people don't resist prescriptions from authorities, they follow them. But here's the final danger. Authority establishes credibility, makes people listen, makes your words carry weight, but it doesn't create urgency. It doesn't make them act now instead of later. It doesn't push them from "I should" to "I will." Authority without scarcity is advice, and advice gets filed away, forgotten, acted on someday, which means never. The final trigger is called scarcity, and it's the difference between having a great meeting and "let's do this now." So let me tell you about the nice guy. Not as someone I observed, as someone I was for years. This is a confession I don't like making, but you need to hear it. I was the rep who never wanted to pressure anyone. Take your time, sleep on it. Whenever you're ready. I thought I was being professional, respectful, playing the long game. But here's what was actually happening. My pipeline was full of ghosts, maybes, follow up next week, contacts who swore they'd get back to me. I had follow-up reminders stacked months out. Every Monday, I'd look at my dashboard and tell myself this was the week. It never was. Friday at 6 p.m., I'd be alone at my desk, office empty, cleaning crew vacuuming in the hallway. I'd scroll through the contacts, type "just checking in" for the 14th time, delete it, stare at the ceiling, and somewhere out there, someone else was closing my deals. Someone who created urgency. Someone who showed my prospects what they'd lose by waiting. I wasn't losing because my product was wrong. I was losing because I gave people forever to decide. And when people have forever, they choose never. What I learned painfully, expensively, is that scarcity isn't pressure, it's truth. Opportunities are limited. Time is limited. Availability is limited. Pretending otherwise isn't respectful, it's dishonest. Here's how deep this goes. A researcher ran an experiment with cookies, chocolate chip cookies. Participants rated them. One group saw a jar with 10 cookies. Another saw a jar with 2. Same cookies, same batch. The cookies from the jar of 2 were rated significantly more desirable, more attractive, more valuable. Same cookies. Fewer of them meant better. But wait, some participants started with 10 cookies. Then the jar was replaced with only 2. These people wanted the cookies most, more than those who always had 2, more than those who always had 10. And when they were told the cookies were reduced because other participants wanted them, maximum desire. So let's map this out. Scarcity increases desire. Newly experienced scarcity increases it more. Scarcity caused by competition increases it the most. In 1973, ABC paid $3.3 million for one broadcast of the Poseidon adventure. Industry analysts calculated they'd lose over $1 million. Made no financial sense. What happened? First ever open auction for a movie. ABC, CBS, and NBC in the same room, bidding against each other publicly. One movie, one winner. The executive stopped thinking about profit, started thinking about winning, about not losing, about beating the other guy. Scarcity plus rivalry. Logic offline. The winner, Barry Diller, later swore he'd never enter another auction. The loser, Bob Wood, said he was relieved. Both recognized after the fever broke that scarcity had hijacked their judgment. Now, I'm not telling you this to manipulate people. I'm telling you this because the principle works whether you use it intentionally or not. If your prospect feels like they can have your offer anytime, no urgency. Let me think about it. But if they feel that opportunity slipping away, that's when let me think about it becomes let's do this now. Here's the ethical line. Fake scarcity destroys trust. If you say there's only one left and there were 20, you've lost them forever. If you create a fake deadline and extend it, you've trained them to not believe you. The scarcity must be real. I can only take on 3 new clients this month. Real. This price is guaranteed until Friday. Real. Once this fills up, there's a 3-month wait. Real. Real limits, stated clearly. Urgency without deception. Let me show you how this worked in the field. Fundraising. Each child could only have one sponsor. Built-in scarcity. A man stopped at my booth, maybe 60, retired, khakis with a crease. He looked at the photos. Points to a little girl, maybe 7, bright smile, school uniform slightly too big. Tell me about her. I tell him her name, her village, that she wants to be a teacher. His eyes go soft. She reminds me of my granddaughter. Here's where the old me would have let him just think about it. The new me says, I should tell you something. I've shown her photo to a few people today. There was a woman earlier who was really interested. She said she'd come back. His head snaps towards me. Someone else? I say, she might be sponsored by the time you decide. I honestly don't know. His face changes. Softness becomes urgency. I don't want someone else to get her. He takes out his wallet. That wasn't manipulation. The woman was real. The possibility was real. I just made sure he understood the stakes. So here's what you take from this. Frame your offer in terms of loss. Here's what you'll lose if you don't act. Beats, here's what you'll get. Create real scarcity. Limited spots, limited time, limited availability. State it clearly. Introduce competition. Others are looking at this. Someone asked about this yesterday. Fear of losing to someone else is the most powerful scarcity. Check yourself. Real urgency is ethical. Fake urgency is destructive. Know the difference. When you master scarcity, something shifts. You stop accepting, let me think about it, and you stop letting people drift away. You understand what that phrase actually means. It doesn't mean I need more information. It means I don't have a reason to act now. Scarcity provides that reason. We've now covered 5 triggers. reciprocation, liking, social proof, authority, scarcity. Each one operates automatically, below awareness. Each one can be used ethically to help people make decisions that improve their lives. But knowing isn't enough. You need moves, drills, actions you can take tomorrow, today, the next conversation. So let me give you a toolkit, the battle briefing. Here's what you do. 5 triggers, decades of research, thousands of conversations. Now let's compress it into moves. No philosophy, just actions. Tool number 1, the opening gift. Don't pitch first, give first. The move, walk in, deliver value, coffee, insight, genuine compliments, create debt, then talk business. The drill, before every meeting, answer this. What can I give before I ask? Have your answer ready. The result, obligation, lowered walls, permission to proceed. Tool number 2, the retreat. Start bigger than you need. When they push back, drop to your real ask. The move, present ideal outcomes. The drop feels like a gift. They reciprocate with yes. The drill, know 3 numbers before every conversation. Ideal, realistic, minimum. Lead with ideal, retreat to realistic. The result, higher close rate. Better terms, no begging. Tool 3, the mirror. Match them. Don't drag them to you. The move. First 2 minutes, watch, posture, pace, energy. Then calibrate. The drill, before speaking, observe. Are they fast or slow, formal or casual, reserved or animated? And then match it. The result, instant familiarity. Trust without trying. I don't know why, but I like this person. Tool number 4, the crowd. Never sell alone. Show that others are doing it. The move is your testimonials, case studies, names, numbers. This is our fastest growing option. Most people in your situation choose this. The drill, though, after every win, collect proof. Testimonials, photos, permission to use names. Build a library. Use it constantly. The result? Certainty without convincing. The crowd does the selling. Tool number 5, the symbol audit. Authority is judged in seconds before you even speak. The move is your clothes, your posture, your material, your voice. Every signal says expert or amateur. The drill is to ask someone you trust, what do you perceive in the first 10 seconds? Fix what's broken. The result will be respect before the pitch. Listening instead of dismissing. Tool number 6, the honest weakness. Admit something that doesn't favor you and do it early. The move, our price isn't the lowest. This isn't for everyone. If you're not committed, this won't work. Then follow with your strongest point. The drill, identify your most common objection. Bring it up first. Own it. Pivot to strength. The result will be trust, believability. Everything after lands harder. And tool number 7, the real deadline. No fake urgency. Real limits. Real consequences. The move, I can only take 2 more this month. The price expires Friday. Once this fills, it's a 3-month wait. The drill, what's actually scarce? Time, spots, availability. Find it, state it clearly. The result will be action instead of delay. Let me think about it becomes let's go. So, the pre-game checklist. Before every conversation, what will I give first? What's my big ask and retreat? How will I match this person? What social proof can I share? Do my symbols project authority? What weakness can I admit? What real urgency exists? 7 questions, 30 seconds, every meeting. Do this and you stop reacting. You start leading. You stop hoping. You start closing. That's the toolkit. Now use it. So here we are. 5 triggers, 7 weapons, stories from Ecology labs to shopping malls, research spanning decades, lessons spanning careers. But let me bring this full circle. At the start of this episode, I told you about a man in a gray lab coat, a man who made normal people deliver what they believed were fatal electric shocks. Not through force, through authority, through the triggers we've spent the last 60 minutes unpacking. Here's the truth. In every sales conversation, someone is wearing that lab coat. Someone is the authority. Someone is providing the triggers. Someone is creating the click. It's either you or it's your competitor, or it's the prospect's own fear, telling them to do nothing. The question isn't whether influence will happen. It will. The question is whether you'll wield it or surrender it. Now, I know some of you are still uncomfortable with this. Kyle, this feels like manipulation. Let me be direct. Manipulation is using these triggers to sell garbage, to trick people into things that will hurt them, to exploit trust for your own gain. That's not what we're doing here. We're using these triggers to help people overcome hesitation, to help them say yes to things that genuinely will improve their lives, to cut through the noise and make good decisions easier. If you believe in what you're selling, if you know it will help the person across from you, if you'd recommend it to your own family, then using these triggers isn't manipulation. It's service. It's your responsibility. Because if you don't, someone else will. And they might not care about your prospect the way you do. So wear the lab coat, not to control people, to guide them, not to extract, to serve, not to manipulate, to lead. That's the difference between a con artist and a professional. And the difference changes everything. 5 triggers. Reciprocation. Give before you ask. Create debt. Use retreat as a gift. Liking. Match them, mirror them, become familiar. We like people who are like us. Social proof. Show the crowd, never sell alone. Break pluralistic ignorance by signaling out individuals. Authority. Audit your symbols. Lead with honest weakness. Speak in statements, not questions. And scarcity. Frame in terms of loss. Create real limits. Introduce competition. 5 weapons. Use them. If this episode changed something for you, if something clicked, share it. Send it to one person who needs to hear it. Someone grinding through conversations. Someone hearing, let me think about it too many times. This is for them too. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the Sales Evolution Lab podcast because we're just getting started. More triggers, more tactics, more evolution. You're not bad at sales. You've just been fighting with the wrong weapons. Now you have the right ones. You walked into this episode wondering why people weren't listening. You're walking out as the one in the lab coat. Use this power wisely. This has been the Sales Evolution Lab podcast, exploring the science of selling from past wisdom to future innovation. I'm Kyle Mackie, and I'll see you in the next episode.